Brushing them back with Colby White. I got Colby somewhere out in the far reaches of the Foxworth community. He's just out there wetting the hook, man, because he ain't got nothing better to do. Professional baseball players got all the time in the world.
That's right.
So the biggest question is, did you catch anything?
Man, I caught nothing. I can't catch no fish, but my girlfriend can. So, fiance, I'm
There you
sorry.
go. At least
Fiance.
she can feed you. Excuse me, fiance. Please God, let's change that. I'll have to edit that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fiance. All right, our guest today is going to be Brian Snow. We had some technical issues a couple of weeks ago trying to get him on. He's got a little hang up right now. We're waiting on him to come on the show. But while we're waiting on him, I want to get Colby's reaction to what is considered probably the greatest event in baseball each year, and that's the World Series. I know he was a little bummed out that his Atlanta Braves didn't make it, but Colby, how do you think? I mean, did you get a chance to watch any of the actual World Series?
Man, I watched game 1 and game 3 a good bit. Been kind of off and on. I keep up with it, but I don't necessarily watch every game, every pitch, every inning. But yeah, man, since I've been home, I've kind of just enjoyed being a kid again. Going fishing, doing whatever. But yeah, I definitely kept up with the World Series. I actually rooted for the Astros. I know that's kind of a uncommon theme now because everybody labels them as cheaters. Regardless of what every other organization has done with the same things that the Astros done. So, but yeah, I was actually glad to see Bryce Harper not win a World Series. So,
well, I don't. I was super excited. I was not really rooting for either of the two teams. I, in a way, was pretty glad that Houston actually did win because Dusty Baker is just a class act. The guy deserved an opportunity to win a World Series. He's been an outstanding manager he's been a manager now for a lot longer than he was a player. And I noticed on some social media posts that he's in pretty rare air now because he was a World Series champion as a player and as a manager. So,
yeah. Well, and the thing you think, or at least I think about, is all those years he was managing clubs that were kind of under budgeted and they didn't really make winning a priority. And you see a good, clean manager like he is that does stuff the old school way, which I still consider the right way. And, and to see him get a World Series where he's at right now. And obviously this is his contract year. Some people are asking him questions about that. And obviously he gave kind of a cliche old school answer. We'll just worry about that when it comes. So that just kind of defines him, I should say, I feel like. But yeah, man, all the years in Cincinnati and, I guess he played for the World Series one year, and I think it was 2002 with the Giants, and had a good group then. But for a while, it didn't seem like he had the top linked guys giving him a bunch of resources and a bunch of money and talent. So, yeah, that was awesome, man. Especially after the little scandal they had. Obviously, he didn't have any part in it, but the Astros kind of had that bad clout, and they said players can't hit. You hear people, just random fans, say, players can't hit. They know what's coming, this, that, and the other. And then the same players go out and win another World Series. And obviously I would much rather my Rays win it, but I don't know. It is what it is. But I'm glad Dan
you definitely wanted to see another AL East representative in the World Series this year. That didn't happen either. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you couldn't have expected what Philadelphia did late. Philadelphia just caught fire, and they were unbelievable down the stretch. And then you said something about his contract year. He's 73 years old. I don't know that he comes back. I mean, that seems like a ride out on the get on your horse and ride out on the sunset kind of ending for a guy that's 73 years old. He's been around baseball since he was like 17 years old. Guys, I mean, he's done about all he can do as a professional.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, but you know how, those baseball lifers, I like to call them, like him, it really seems like a piece of them would go once baseball's done. Man, you do something that long, it becomes part of you, and as much as us as athletes, right, or even, obviously I don't know the coaching side of it, the managerial side, but I'm sure it's the same mentality as an athlete. Like, you hate to give that up, It's brought you so much joy through the years. I mean, I know he's 73, but seems like he's in very great shape, very great health, and so that will be very interesting to see is he going to come back? Does he come back with the Astros? Does somebody else try to sign him during the free agent period this year? How does that work? So
That's true.
uh,
The crazy thing is, if you're winning, it's a lot more fun to hang around when you're winning.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I guess it's kind of a Tom Brady type thing too. He wins a Super Bowl and was said he's going to step out, and then comes back, and then is it going to be one of those things? Is he going to start missing it and come back? Which he stepped away for a little bit, wasn't managing teams. I'm sure he was probably an executive or something for
right.
some organization, but
Right. He was in some capacity. They were talking about he was in some capacity in baseball. He wasn't he wasn't an on-field manager. He was an office. He had a couple of office jobs with well, he was actually something connected to MLB for a few years. Because a guy that's got that much clout, I mean, he's going to get offers to continue to do something. I don't know what it'll be, but you were talking about the lifers. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
you're talking about lifers like him, and you're talking about like Joe Madden, for example. That's a guy they're going to bury him out behind second base. Bruce Bochy's a guy I feel like he'll coach until he'll probably retire, and 6 months later we'll hear that he's passed away. That kind of stuff, because those guys have been doing it for so long. That's like Bob Uecker made a comment when he finally retired from the play-by-play with the Brewers. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do for these 6 or 8 weeks that I got left. Just making a joke. And, of course, that got all over social media. They thought something was wrong with him. He was dying or something. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and then you think about there's so much knowledge with these guys. You hate to see them not being around ball players, because I know me, for instance, and this is with any profession, but a guy that has been around the game 50-plus years, 40-plus years, I've only lived 24 years, and I probably don't remember anything earlier than I was about 5. So just to put that in perspective of this guy has been around the game at the professional level, big league level, at that long, it's like, man, he's forgot more knowledge than I've ever learned.
Right.
And kind of kills me with the whole Tony La Russa thing. And this is obviously a different topic, but he's one of those lifer managers, and Mercedes or whatever his name is, first baseman. I guess I shouldn't name drop or whatever, but he's public.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. We should have hashtagged it. If I'd have known you were going to say his name, I'd have hashtagged it. But go ahead.
Yeah, but he swung. They were up by like 8 or 9 runs late in the ball game, and he swung 3-0 and hit a home run, pimped it. And people come less from the respect side and moved it more toward like I don't know how to put it, but I feel like golf, the prestigeness of how, there's just kind of an understanding. You respect who you play against. You respect the way it was initially played. And then when that happens, obviously Tony La Russa had some words for him and didn't really defend him, which I thought was great, but everybody's like, well, he's their manager. He should defend him to the end, this, that, and other. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is a guy that's been in the game longer than this kid's been alive. And we're taking the side of the guy that hasn't played the game any. He's played it at the high level, but Tony La Russa's lived it longer than he's ever been alive. So, and it's kind of sad to see the hate that he has gotten. And then this is what's crazy to me. Tony La Russa obviously has some off-field stuff with DUIs and stuff like that, and you got fans throwing that into his job and his profession, which is kind of sad. And people wonder why they say ratings go down. Well, the people that actually respect the game, I know we kind of had this talk with Kevin Minch, but the people that actually respect the game, they respect that kind of thing. Like, okay, this guy didn't have his best day today, but you didn't kick him while he was down, So I don't know. That's what's cool about it, and that information and those experiences are invaluable, because you can't just learn that playing a little league or talking to a guy that's only played 3 or 4 years in professional baseball. Somebody's been there 50 years is gonna teach you the right way to do it, So I don't know. That's an interesting thing we're dealing with in the big leagues right now, I feel like.
For all of our audience, for those that say Colby's not getting this thing, he's not getting the hang of it. Did you notice that former guest name drop he just casually threw in there during his explanation? Yeah, this guy's got it going on. Hey, hashtag Kevin Minch. Kevin, glad we had you on the show, man. All right, so here's a question I want to ask you. If let's say, for example, I was trying to think the best way to ask this. They made such a huge deal about it, and I understand it's World Series and everything's magnified. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I actually had watched the game before, and I was busy and couldn't watch the next one. But they threw a combined no-hitter. Okay, I think it was 4 pitchers combined to throw a no-hitter in the World Series. I know that's happened before. I know, for example, the Atlanta Braves have done it in a regular season game. So explain to the audience why that is such a big deal, or why they made it out to be a bigger deal than it actually is.
Well, just me thinking, there's a bunch of different thoughts and things that lead into that. But the thing I'm thinking about is when that guy's getting loose in the pen, he's sit over there and he's looked at the box score on the screen the whole game. And he understands the significance of, hey, nobody's gotten a hit.
Yeah,
and then
a lot of zeros. A lot of zeros.
Yeah, and you run 3 guys out of there with that same understanding, because it's kind of again another unwritten, untalked about thing, unless you're in that little baseball crackhead, the guys that sit around thinking about the game all the time only understands. You've heard it before. He's throwing a no-hitter. Don't say anything about it. Don't acknowledge it, because you're going to jinx him.
Don't get near him. Don't get near him. Yeah, don't breathe on it. Don't breathe on it.
Yeah, exactly. And then to be able to run not one guy out there, but 3 guys after your starter, and every one of them understands where we're at in the back of his mind, and to go out there and execute and get it done. And yeah, that's what was crazy is the Javier obviously had to set the tone and get a good start and all that. But this is what was the most interesting thing to me, which this is baseball. It's kind of understood. But the night before, Phillies hit 5 home runs and you couldn't get them out. And that just goes to show every kid or everybody, not even a kid, people like me who's still trying to learn the game and understand stuff. This game will humble you quick. Bryce Harper the night before was whispering to a bomb or whatever and saying, hey, man, he's tipping his pitches, whatever exactly he told him. But obviously he told him he was tipping something, because he was all over that fastball in a weird count. So, but yeah, I mean, it'll humble you quick. And then you go out there and you hit 5 home runs. The next night you get no hit by 4 different arms. And you would think, okay, at least you're going to get on one of these arms, because as well as anybody, one pitcher can have a great night and no hit you. But the fact is, you hit 5 home runs the night before, you're all over everybody, and you come out the next game and 4 pitchers shove it up you crooked, and it's,
shove it up you crooked. I'm gonna have to put that on the shirt. I like that.
Yeah, I have to censor that, man. It's Sunday. I'm talking crazy, but I mean,
that's got to go on the shirt right there.
Yeah.
All right. So now a couple things, and I'm fixing to shamelessly name drop a former guest also. We had a conversation with Mr. Jeff Fry. You remember us having a conversation with Jeff. Jeff's kind of, I'm going to just say he has a very strong opinion about today's game. We'll just leave it at that, right? All right. So Jeff will tell you the reason that they were successful is because everybody's up there swinging for the fences, not worrying about average, not worried about, small ball is a thing of the past. Because there was a few occasions on some highlights I saw where I truly believe, if you're scuffling, drop a bunt. See if you can beat a bunt out something. But then you get into that whole deal about, man, how disrespectful was that you dropped a bunt to break up a no-hitter, especially in the World Series. That's what me and Colby try to show everybody when we're talking about baseball. It is a game of respect. It is a game of honor, and you just don't do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, let's be honest. You ran 4 guys. I saw a comment. I don't remember. I was reading through Facebook or something. I saw a comment where a guy said, something about how in the world does the Philadelphia Phillies have 4 pitchers face them and they can't scratch a hit off any of them? And the guy's response was, he said, well, it's easy when you run 4 guys out there and throw 100 miles an hour and only throwing 9 or 10 pitches. So that's true. I mean, the back end guys, I think one of them only threw like 11 pitches, but I mean, he was throwing like 95 to 100. He wasn't out there throwing curveballs at 75 miles an hour. He was bringing it. So,
oh yeah. Well, and this is what kills me is obviously it is the approach thing. Like they are trying to hit home runs, but when you think about, and if I was a hitter, I would kind of have a different kind of approach because I've seen the pitching side of it. But when you really think about it, Pitchers now have to throw the ball 17 inches over the plate, like the Greg Maddux hitting your spot over and over again and ended up extending the plate by 3.5 inches, 4 inches. That's the thing of the past. You got electronic strike zones on the TVs doing instant feedback on where the pitch was, if it was called strike or not, and then they're actually reporting umpire grade. Like on Twitter after every game, it's got, and this is what's bad, a guy like Angel Hernandez gets roasted on Twitter because when they come out with those reports, it tells the percentage of accuracy that the umpire was called. Well, when you think about during the 90s, a hitter had to really focus on hitting the ball early in the count, because if you watch that one 3.5 inches off the plate, you better be swinging and you better be trying to make contact, because if you take many of them, even the balls that don't look strikes, if you take many of them, you can get rung up. And
That's right.
So to me, as a hitter, maybe that as a pitcher, I'm sorry, if I was a hitter, maybe they're thinking he's only got to throw the ball in this little 17-inch area. He's not extending the plate. It shouldn't be as hard. Well, it is when everybody's rolling out Randy Johnson type stuff, and that's what's insane about these relievers now. Is like, I heard somebody say it right when I got drafted, 95 is the new 90. You start looking at how many guys can throw the ball 95 miles an hour. I bet there's less than a dozen guys that pitch in the big leagues that can't throw the ball 95 miles an hour if they're reared back throwing the baseball. And that's what's kind of my thought is maybe they're thinking, oh, well, they've got to throw it over the plate. We're seeing a lot of the same velocity, so we're on it. But then again, you go out there and no hit them, and they're throwing it over the plate. It kind of changes the argument, but stuff definitely is better. When you playing catch for these guys, you're like, how in the world does anybody hit that? And it's interesting, to say the least.
All right. So we can look back now. Now this over, and the Phillies, for the National League, essentially laid an egg. They let Houston beat them, which I just want to point out. I'm old enough to remember when Houston used to be in the National League. The best thing that ever happened to the Houston franchise was when they got moved to the American League. They instantly became more competitive. I don't know why. I guess but the crazy thing is, I remember back in the 80s, they had starting pitchers that could hit bombs. I mean, they could hit 400-foot bombs. So it's not the getting rid of the pitcher and replacing him with a DH. I just don't know what it was. It's got to be upper management changes. I remember when they were featured on that Sports Illustrated cover, when they were just abysmal. I remember what they were horrible. They won like 25 games that year or something. And they put on the front cover, they show the draft picks, the Gurriel and Altuve and all those guys that they were bringing in. And they said, this is the World Series champion of 20, whatever it was. It was like a 4-year plan. They were going to be in the World Series, and they only missed it, I think, by 1 year. But of course, the whole scandal that's associated with them. That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, the scandal, yeah, they won, but then they got kind of outed. No backlash this year. Everybody's celebrating them. Is it because some of them actually came out and apologized? Because if you say you're sorry, everything's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Me personally, I'm not naive enough to believe that they're the only team in Major League Baseball that does that. Because here's the thing about it: it's like any business there is, because baseball is a business. If Apple comes out with a feature on a phone, then not Verizon, Samsung, or whatever other phone companies are, they're
the Android models,
they're going to come out with it later. And same thing with trucks. Tesla come out with an electric truck, then everybody else comes with an electric truck. And so I'm not saying the Astros were the first ones to do it. I have no idea, but I would bet a large sum of money, if I had a large sum of money, that would say that there was at least 2 or 3 other teams that were doing the same thing, didn't get caught, and it was kind of a thing where I can respect the commissioner, which I guess they're saying there was no punishment, but I mean, they fired the manager. Seemed like to me that's enough, because he's the one that's supposed to organize all those kinds of things. And so Hinch is gone. I guess he can end up You hear
Well,
me
now
now?
he's supposed to be, he's supposed to be the gatekeeper. If you can't, man, if you can't, he's sort of like the warden of the prison. If he can't keep it under control, he needed to go. Which I'm gonna be honest with you, that guy was, you go back and look at some of his previous actions in other organizations. I don't know how he ever got the job in the first place. He's a little unhinged. So, but like I
Well,
said, that's what I was curious to know. Is everything cool now? I mean, they won one. I didn't hear any controversy about them stealing signs or anything this go around. But I mean, we're still early. I mean, this could come out 6 months from.
oh yeah. Well, I think there's always a bitterness with some other fans, especially the newer fans.
Mm-hmm.
The newer fans are always going to have an excuse. They don't respect the game because that's the ones that's doing it. I don't feel like it's the old school, the old heads sitting around saying, "Hey, that's the only reason why they won," because those guys understand how hard it is just to hit the ball. For one, I mean, I know it's easier to know if it's coming, but I'm willing to bet those guys can steal signs from the catcher, looking between his legs at sign sequences. So,
Right.
I mean, it won't necessarily just be a guy's looking at a computer monitor in the dugout. This is what's coming. But I don't know. I think it's kind of one of those things that was overdrawn out. Like, I don't think it was as serious as what it made out to be. I mean, I might sound crazy for that. I mean, you look at their numbers, like Altuve, Bregman, all those guys. The year that they said they were doing that, and look at their career numbers, they're pretty much the same hitter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's obviously some level of talent there to work with. Now, is it a little bit better? Maybe so, maybe not. I don't know. I guess nobody will never know, but
Well, two quick statements here that I want to make. One, Colby can throw, at or around 100 miles an hour. Depending on how the arm comes back, you might actually get on that 100. He could tell me, he could throw 10 fastballs to me while I was batting. He could tell me every time he was throwing a fastball. I'm still going to be lucky if I scratch one. I probably won't even scuff it as it passes me, even if I knew it was coming. So this nonsense about, they tipped the pitches, in 1.7 seconds, they got a signal flash to them that a guy's fixing to throw a ball 100 miles an hour. And, in that 1.7 seconds, if the guy's in his windup, the ball's halfway home anyway. So,
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's funny. I heard this story. I don't know who he was playing, but Spencer Price from Mississippi State. I want to name drop him.
another
Obviously,
man, right?
yeah, obviously had an elite slider. They told this didn't happen while I was there, but they told me before I got there they was playing an SEC opponent one weekend, and they were in the ninth. It was a close ball game, and Spencer was obviously the closer. Well, Spencer signals slider before he threw it to the batter, and everybody just, what is he doing? Then he throws a slider by somebody, and it was kind of disrespectful, kind of pointing the bird at you. You ain't gonna hit it, kind of thing. But that just kind of, that's just kind of a funny thing to think about. Like, everybody's making this big deal about them tipping pitches, and you got pitchers in college that are that confident in their stuff that they're gonna tell you it's coming, and you're still not gonna hit it. And then, at the high level where people have the best stuff in the world, we're just sitting here thinking it's something way easier than it is, It's still a hard barrel it up.
Well, here's a name drop for you. Spencer Price ended up, what's the guy? Zach Greinke, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Zach Greinke video on YouTube where he actually tells the catcher what he's about to throw. Like, he doesn't give a signal. He actually verbalizes the pitch he's about to throw and then gets the guy out with it. So, Zach Greinke. Hey, Zach Greinke, if you ever hear this, we would love to have you on the show. All right, so speaking of Zach Greinke, funny story about him. He's the quirkiest dude in Major League Baseball by far. He actually just got in street clothes. Him and his family, they showed up. I think it was to the second game of the World Series, and he walked around the stadium all day unnoticed. Like, nobody recognized him, which is even a crazier story that a professional baseball player of his caliber could walk around a stadium that's got, I don't know how many. Let's see, game 2 would have been where? That would have been in Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Houston, because they had home field. How big of a stadium you think Minute Maid Park is? How many you think it holds?
I'm gonna say at least 40-something thousand if I had to
So he
guess. I'm not
walked
sure.
he walked around for 9 innings and with around 40,000 people and nobody recognized him. You know you've arrived when you're a pitcher of that caliber and nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, multiple Cy Youngs too. It ain't like he's just a guy that's just sneaked through the
Yeah,
leagues for 4 or 5 years.
he's not just a number three guy in the rotation. I mean, this dude was a one for many years.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right, so now that it's behind us, World Series is actually behind us, and you could replace the Phillies with a more worthy opponent. Who would you put in that spot?
Man, uh, obviously I grew up in the South. Grew up a huge Braves fan. Hopefully the
Okay,
Rays don't have that and think some kind of way. But they didn't play great when they were supposed to. Uh,
right.
and then obviously I hate the Dodgers. Obviously they're a really good team. Uh, I don't know. The Padres got hot. I mean, but obviously they couldn't put down the Phillies. But I just kind of felt like that lineup, when you think about the Phillies, they're hot or not because the hitters that they've had, like Schwarber, you look through their career and you know
Yeah,
they never just have this whole year he hits 300 or hits whatever a bunch of years in a row. There's ups and downs. I guess technically there's like that with everybody, but they don't really have the Christian Yelich type hitter or the
right.
whoever that's the
I didn't
first
follow
call.
the Phillies. Well, see, I didn't follow the Phillies close enough this year. I'm a Cubs guy, so when Schwarber popped up, I watched a few of their games. Was he now? I watched bits and pieces of three different games, and he was the leadoff guy. All three. Was he their regular everyday leadoff guy?
See, I'm not sure, but I know that that kind of thing started. I don't know if that was the model. I don't know if they actually copied that model from the Cubs, but Rizzo, and they would have a big time power threat
Yeah.
hitting with the
Yeah,
Cubs.
Rizzo. Yeah, they alternated Rizzo and they tried Schwarber as a leadoff guy in Chicago. They had Rizzo as a leadoff guy, and then of course they had Chris Bryant leading off. And Chris
Mm-hmm.
Bryant, to me, in that model, was the most successful because Chris Bryant can hit it 500 feet, or he can just drive it to the gap. Um,
Yeah.
Rizzo's going to hit the ball hard somewhere, especially if he gets it to right field. It's especially in Yankee Stadium. My God, he ought to hit 500 home runs if he stays with the Yankees. And
Oh
then
yeah.
for Schwarber can breathe on the ball and hit it 250, 300 feet. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
saw.
mean, power, and that whole lineup's like that. I mean, Harper, same thing, big time, and he'll always hit home runs. Harper could be 45 years old and he's still gonna hit home
Yeah,
runs. That kind of swing. Same thing with Schwarber. Baum's got a bunch of power, but I think he's more of
yeah.
a overall around better hitter than all of those. When you start talking about just putting the ball in play and stuff, uh, I don't know. That's the weird thing about baseball is a team like, for instance, the Braves won the World Series last year. They
Mm-hmm.
won more games this year, first 100-win season since '03, and
Mm-hmm.
then just kind of choked in the playoffs, and that's what's weird about baseball. It's you never know what to expect, and I think that's why it's one of the greatest games. Like, for instance, in football, if the Bills line up and play the Saints for the next 3 years, and Josh Allen's a quarterback, and the Saints keep Jameis Winston or whoever, the Bills are going to win. A lot would have to go right. And
Well, now I'm not hating on the Saints now, but the Bills line up with Josh Allen at quarterback. They gonna win against a bunch of folks.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. In baseball, you can have whoever the premier talented team, and they might lose a few series to way lesser opponents in baseball, and that's what's cool because you go to Vegas and go to betting on stuff or whatever, you will lose a lot of money if you think you're gonna make a clean, safe bet in baseball. It's just
Yeah.
not gonna happen. You never know.
Well, unless you're Mattress Mac. Now, Mattress Mac, every time Houston, what is it? He places a bet every year at the beginning of the season, and of course he won the largest sports bet payoff in history. I don't remember how much he put down, but he won $75 million.
Lord.
Lord, it's time to sit down.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the thing about it is, and maybe they posted it, but I mean, if let's say he put a bunch of money down and lost every bit of it, you probably wouldn't hear anything about that, you know.
Well, he does it every year, and I want to say it was 5 million. He put $5 million down and won 75 million because they were 15 to 1 odds or something at the beginning of the year or something like that. So
That's
just
crazy.
think if he was crazy and put it on somebody like the Cubs, for example, that only won like 55 games this year or whatever it was they won. And yeah, I can't imagine the odds on that were probably 300 to 1 odds. Can you imagine if he'd put $5 million down on 300 to 1? That's crazy money right there. That's Colby White money right there.
You crazy, dude? I wish.
All right. Let's quit talking about Colby's money now. Let's shift gears. All right, so just for the viewers, look, if you were tuning in to see Brian Snow, doesn't look like we're gonna get him today. I got a message popped up on my phone over. I hadn't had a chance to check it. It must be him telling me he's not gonna be able to make it today. I've had a blast sitting here chatting about just baseball, just talking about baseball with Colby White because Colby White's an expert now. I don't know if y'all know it or not. I'm gonna ask him one more really poignant question. I want to see what kind of answer he gives me. All right, you're old enough to have watched what I would consider some of the best finesse pitchers of all time, guys like Greg Maddux that could just like he walked up there and just handed it to the catcher on the black. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of guy. You've had an opportunity to see guys like Noah and Ryan that just absolutely, could just bring it. Randy, you mentioned Randy Johnson. It's amazing that you're a 25-year-old. I don't know how you got to be older than that. 28-year-old. You're under 30. I'm amazed that a kid under 30 years old would reference Randy Johnson. I mean, yeah, he threw hard, but like you said, in the league now, everybody throws hard.
Yeah.
So you've seen it. You've watched the evolution of baseball. So for the next 20 years, let's say until you make it to the bigs and play your career out, and let's say you get 10 or 12 years in the league. So let's say over the next 20 years, is this the direction we're headed? Is it going to be power arms versus power bats and, win, lose, or draw every how it plays out? Is that how it's going to be?
Well, this is what I think is going to happen. Obviously, I'm a power arm, and hopefully I'm out of the league before power goes out of style and people start slapping the ball to all fields again, because I feel like that is one reason that the power four seam up in the zone carries well and plays well. But I feel like at some point in time, we're going to go back to the old school, hit the ball backside, hit it on the ground some, don't strike out, and then the sinker ball is going to come back and play. I mean, obviously it's going to be way longer than Manfred. Manfred has he's changed the game a ton with all these rule changes he's doing and the automatic strike zones he's playing around with to show things. But obviously it is a crazy thing to think about how much baseball has changed in 20 years. Because like for me, I know we talk about baseball and obviously you've seen a lot more baseball than I have, but I really enjoy just seeing the differences through the years, and that's what makes baseball special is there's always this little change. Like the game is the same game for 100 plus years, but there's something a little bit different, and then there's also the things that are absolute and they stay the same. Hopefully they stay the same. I wasn't really big on burning the DH in the National League this year. That was something that happened with the commissioner's office and all that I didn't really like seeing, because I feel like that's what makes baseball unique. That's just one of those old school things. But yeah, I feel like eventually it's going to go back to sinker balls and Greg Maddux type pitchers. It's got to, because that's just how it goes in waves,
You referenced how old I was, and I've seen a lot more baseball than you have. We were even taught that. Keep the ball down, keep it down, keep it down. They can't hit if it's 8 inches off the ground with a downward flow or downward snap, they're not hitting it out of the ballpark, which is a lie, because these guys playing now that can golf one for a mile. So,
and they're tailoring swings. That's what's interesting is the things I was taught when I was younger. Keep the ball down and they ain't gonna hit home runs. The same thing you're talking about now, and that was the thing up until I say 5 or so years ago. And hitters now, they're trying to get that bat barrel down down on plane to get under that low pitch, and that's why they struggle high. They're not swinging flat; they're swinging upwards, the uppercut, the deadly uppercut that his dad said in the batting cage working with him against. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at now.
Well, Colby, I hate to cut you off, but Brian Snow just showed up. Let's get him on the show. Let's talk to him a minute.
All right.
Good evening, gents. How are you?
What's up, Brian? Man, we thought we'd lost you, brother. We went ahead and got started. We just been chatting about baseball. Now we get to shift gears and talk about how you're going to shut ESPN down.
By telling the truth.
Well, I don't know. The truth might not sell too good. So.
Oh, the truth never sounds good to Dirty Money.
Yeah, he and I were just discussing if he could change the outcome of the World Series when he put somebody else in and all that kind of stuff. So, and of course, he's a power arm, so he's all about throwing strikeouts, and he loves to see. We even talked about the combined no hitter just a few minutes ago, which he was a big fan of that too. Pitchers is always hating on hitters anyway.
I think always. I mean, I grew up in an era where you had Steve Carlton, Nolan Ryan, Doc Gooden, real power pitchers.
Right
now, I don't like combined no hitters. I don't but I know why it's done. It's the age of the sabermetrics. They need to get them out of here. But I truly understand why. It's done. And in this case, I can allow for a combined no-hitter because it's the World Series. It's a 2-1 deficit facing the Astros. And you need to tie the series. Period.
Right.
And you don't want Vasquez to overwork himself just in case there was a game 7. So in that particular instance, I can pretty much dig why they went that way.
Yeah, and then you got Nolan Ryan sitting at home going, "Come on, kids! I threw 150 more pitches than this in a game, just 10 years ago."
Shucks, Nolan. Who did I mention? Steve Carlton, Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens.
Nolan Ryan is an alien. We've already had this discussion. He's not a human anyway. He's an alien. So,
he's the only pitcher I know that had a flawless windup. That had flawless pitching mechanics.
Yes, I have to agree with that. He looked like he absolutely looked like a machine on the mound. So,
well, you said he's an alien. I mean, how many times can you get a guy outside of Jack Morris that can throw 120 plus pitches in like an 11 or 12 inning playoff game? Anybody remember Game 5 against the New York Mets in 1986?
Well, I thought you were going to give the Jack Morris reference where he pitched that flawless 11 or 10 inning effort against the Braves, but that's going to be a sore subject for Colby. Colby, when it comes to the Braves losing, Colby he gets real nauseous. I don't know what it is. So.
And he's really not going to like this piece of trivia I'm going to spit out here. I've asked this question a few times on my morning show. And not many people get it right. Do you know Jack Morris is the only pitcher in World Series history to toss a 10-inning complete game shutout in a clincher? Only pitcher to do that.
I did. I mean, I didn't know he was the only one. I actually witnessed it live, so I remember them saying that. So
same.
Yeah. Hey, you're talking about players that Colby had to look up on baseball cards. He doesn't even know. Half these guys you just don't know who they are.
Man,
he's sorting through his baseball cards right now trying to figure out who you're talking about.
Well, years ago I had a baseball game, and I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the shows, MLB, the shows they first come out with. And I've always been a baseball fan and just idolized different things with baseball. But it had games on there, like past games uploaded to the actual video game. And you could go on there and click, like, it was called baseball's greatest moments or something like that. And you could go on there and watch 9 innings or however long the game went of these crazy games, and real history. Special moments. It's like, man, this is unreal.
It's like you said, William, real history. Because I watched that game live from the Metrodome. I was at my parents' house, and my dad and I sat and watched Jack Morris carve up the Atlanta Braves for 10 innings. Now, nothing against John Smoltz, okay, because Smoltz was smoking in that game for 8 innings. But every time we saw Jack Morris take the mound, it's like, okay, how quick is he going to get through this inning? And here's another fun fact that a lot of people don't remember. Tom Kelly was going to pull Jack Morris after the 9th inning, and Jack Morris wouldn't have none of it.
Yeah, can't do that now. That's for sure.
Well, man, don't get me started with how pitching is nowadays. With some of the arms I grew up watching, it would be an anomaly to see someone throw a 9-inning no-hitter. It would be an anomaly, and this is where I pick on Colby briefly. It would be an anomaly to see someone toss a 9-inning no-hitter like, I don't know, Roy Halladay did in 2010 against the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah. Well, and to the pitcher's defense, like years ago, and this is my organization, not throwing anything at them, but you start talking about the elbow injuries, the cuts on the arm, and the year 14 months off.
Yeah.
Luckily, a lot of those guys you're mentioning didn't have it or had it late and their careers were over, which that just shows you, just how crazy their bodies were to adapt to things. But
well, they knew how to take care of themselves.
Yeah,
they knew what they had to do to take care of themselves, to take care of their arms. Everything is so advanced now and so specialized, especially when it comes to pitching. And what the Houston Astros just proved is an old adage: pitching wins baseball games.
Exactly. Yeah, they had a really good bullpen.
Now hitting.
Pitching,
See, Kobe, you don't remember those old arms, those old heads. They'd go out and throw 175 pitches. They'd go to the bar and knock out a half a fifth of whiskey and, whatever. And then they'd go home and flip it off the next morning and do it all over again. So.
Easy. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it happen in the years that I've watched baseball. Because the first game I ever went to live, because I'm from Chicago, so I'm a White Sox fan in my heart. The first game I ever went to was in 1982 at the old Comiskey Park. So when they won it all in 2005, especially with the fearsome foursome that we had throwing 4 consecutive complete games against the Angels. And this is after Contreras went 8 1/3 in game 1. 8 1/3. You won't see that. You won't see a performance like that, be it in an LCS or a World Series ever again, where a staff only allows their bullpen 2/3 of an inning in 5 games. You'll never see that again.
Oh yeah,
that's true. I saw a game earlier this year where they recorded that to record 2/3 of an inning, they used 3 pitchers.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that.
Threw 4 pitches. I think he maybe had a little elbow twinge or something. They brought another guy in. He threw the 3rd strike, and then they brought another guy in because it was a righty versus righty to finish the inning to get the last out, which is insane. So
it's insane. It's insane to me. And the other insane thing is to pull your closer in a situation where you needed him. You're up 2 runs, and I'm pointing the finger right at Scott Service and the Seattle Mariners. You're up 2. Let your closer figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You have the advantage against Yordan Alvarez, and Yordan Alvarez killed left-hand pitching. He killed left-hand pitching this past season. And you're gonna throw Robbie Ray, a starting pitcher, a lefty, at Yordan Alvarez, especially with the way Minute Maid Park was getting ready to explode anyway. And he's the winning run.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing that I kind of think about with these starters that come in late in the ball games, Clayton Kershaw has kind of a bad rap for coming in the game late in the postseason and getting hit around. But when you really think about it,
2019 showed me that.
yeah, but when you really think about it, it would be like a starter, a closer starting, because let's face it,
Mhm.
Everybody, the starters get all this hype and all that, and they're very valuable and they're very important. But there's
Mhm.
something stuff that can't be replaced. Like, yeah, you can throw 4 or 5 pitches, that's fine. But how good are those 4 or 5 pitches? If a starter comes out of
Exactly.
a ball game and he's allowed 3 or 4 runs in 5 or 6 innings, they say that was a quality start. That was good. A reliever,
How?
a single run, and that's
Mhm.
just obviously they do, and that people remember those. But Clayton Kershaw allows a 2-run home run in the 9th inning. He does that in the 1st inning, and he's a starter throwing 6 innings. You don't really remember that one because there's time to get back in the ball game. And so,
Exactly.
to me, that's just kind of I feel like every pitcher has his place, and if he's used to throwing in that situation, he should thrive in that situation. No
Mhm.
matter, I get where organizations come from. It should be just pitching, and that you should be able to figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's a hard game. There's so
It
many
is.
little quirks. And another thing to think about. This is more of a player side of it. Robbie Ray's been a starter. He's had 30 minutes to get loose. He's on the
Mhm.
field doing game stretches, his running. He's done all that stuff in plenty of time. They probably told him, the inning, half inning before he come in the ball game, hey, you're fit to come in. And then he jogged down there and everything was just sped up. I'm sure the same
Mhm.
thing with Kershaw. And to me,
Yep.
if you're a pitcher and you get used to your routine and you throw it off, like for me, instantly, like for me, when
That's
the phone
trouble.
rings, I'm loose. I'm a reliever. I don't have a routine. I've broke from that, and it's helped me a ton. But as a starter, you've got to have one, and then you just set them
You must.
up when you run them out there like that.
You must. You must have a routine
Oh yeah,
because and Colby, you just said it best. When that routine gets broken, especially in a pressure situation, how do you bounce back from that? Whether
exactly.
it be your next appearance or your next start. I posed this question on my morning show also. Who is one reliever you would never want to face? And I have 2 of them, and they both threw at a weird angle. One is Dennis Eckersley, and the other is Dan Quisenberry.
Oh my God, Dan Quisenberry. We can shut the show down. We've had a Dan Quisenberry sighting. I'm telling you, man. When you said, wait, who was the person you said?
Dennis
Dan
Eckersley.
Quisenberry. Oh, Dennis Eckersley. I might throw one more in there since we're going old school. How about Kent to Colby with the Pirates?
Oh Lord, Kent Colby.
Kent to Colby.
Who
I've seen that
started
pitch.
with his wind up behind his head, and all of
Listen,
a
I
sudden
watched that dude pitch in a game.
he's dropping
I don't know
three
what year
quarters.
it was like early 80s. He came off the field and there was blood running off his fingertips. So when they zoomed in with the camera, he actually had drug his knuckles on the ground. He got so low with his delivery.
Yep.
Ooh.
That's insane. And he had the wildest action on a fastball I have ever seen. Like
I've
it
never
went every
seen.
look, he could throw the same pitch 3 times and it went a different direction every time. Like he was the last person to know where the ball was headed.
He was the only person to know where the ball was headed.
No, he was the last one there. When it landed in the catcher's mitt or off the backstop, that's when he knew where it was headed. So
yeah. All those submarine sidearm pitchers, really got to me. When you're coming over the top, you pretty much most of the time you can pretty much judge which way the ball's coming. But with folks like Quisenberry and Eckersley and Colby, you don't know where the hell the ball's coming from. You don't know because Colby had 3 different angles. He had his normal sidearm angle, and then he would drop lower than that, and then he would drop lower than that.
Yeah, sure
especially
did.
Especially with his sinker, forget it.
And he wore these glasses that had the super tan in them. Like when he'd get out in the sunshine, they'd tin up on him, which made him more impressive looking. He looked really intimidating because he was about 6'4", or at least he looked that tall. he only weighed about 185 pounds. I mean, he was a scarecrow, but I mean,
he threw every
he
piece
was
of
all, yeah, he was all arms and legs. I remember that. Like when he turned it loose, he had arms and legs.
185. He threw every piece of that 185 pounds into his motion.
I was thinking, say he had probably finished his career before Colby was even born.
And
Brian, go ahead.
And with Dennis Eckersley, that slider that he would throw, you see him, he'd go into his kick, and sometimes the glove would be in his front leg, and sometimes he would keep it close to his chest. Man, I dare you to hit that thing. I dare you. Forget the back door. Forget the back door. You're coming in the front door.
Colby and I had, you talking about relievers, scary relievers, guys you wouldn't want to face. Colby and I had Brian Tolberg on a few episodes back, and he was talking about his time playing with Trevor Hoffman, about how because Trevor Hoffman used to be the just most intimidating guy ever. When he trotted out of the bullpen, I'm like, oh God, it's over. It's over.
Didn't he come into Hell's Bells, Trevor Hoffman?
Yes. Yeah, ACDC. So. That is correct.
And he had that wild leg kick.
Yeah.
He had that wild leg kick.
Sure did. Brian, you keep referencing your morning show. We got just a few minutes left before we have to drop. Tell our listeners, I mean, you got 1,000 things going on, but tell us a little bit of what you got going on. I know you have a morning show that you do. It's called Snowman in the Morning. I know all about that. You're also trying to replace ESPN with this new sports network you're putting together. But tell our listeners a little bit about that.
It's the SDM Sports Radio Network, and the catchphrase is the best of sports and the best of sports coverage. With everything going political right and left with some of these big networks, when I formed this, the folks that are involved with me said, "Out of hell with that. We're sticking with sports. We're sticking with what we know and in our lane."
Right.
And my next 2 words are this: go Tigers. After what happened last night at LSU.
Well, here's a quick question for you. When you say all sports, like you cover everything? I mean, I know you cover the big four, but do you have a little bit of coverage about everything?
Yes, I do.
So your discussions get a little more heated on NFL football or college football?
It's a tie.
What about I know during baseball season you got a lot of action going on with baseball. And I know football is strong right now. Basketball, you get deep into basketball during basketball season too?
I do, and it's more college basketball.
Yeah. I was wondering because I'm gonna tell you the NBA is reaching a point to where I don't watch NBA basketball anymore. And I have very few friends that do. That's why I was asking you. I still watch I watch a lot of college athletics. Which it's getting more corrupt every day with all the NIL stuff. But that's why I was wondering, did you lean more toward the amateur stuff over the professional league? So,
well, I've been a play-by-play announcer for 27 years, and I do a lot more amateur stuff, high school and college. I mean, people tell me all the time, you should have a pro job with the way you're sounding right now. Yeah, but also with the red tape and the politics, no, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, Colby and I, as we have delved off into this project, we're learning very quickly. You got to be real careful what you say, because we live in a real woke society right now, so you have to be super careful what you say because you don't want to get canceled.
That's an understatement. But with me, I have the nerve of, if I'm foolish enough to believe in my dreams, then as God is my witness, I am that fool. they can knock me down. And especially with some conversations I've had, just over the past week, knock me down all you want. I'm going to get right back up and keep coming.
Right. Look, brother, we're about 2 minutes out. So here's what I need you to do. Before we get out of here, I need you to let everybody know how they can find you. I know you got websites and all this social media presence and all that. So hit us with all that so our listeners can check you out at all the different directions you got going right now.
Official SIT Morn is on all of my shows, social media, and you can easily watch me through YouTube, youtube.com/snowmaninthemorning50. That's where you can catch my morning show. Subscribe there, and then I'll have the links to everywhere else where you can find me.
Well, guys, Brian Snow, I got a chance to know Brian through some podcasts and some other stuff. Really fantastic guy. I follow all his stuff. He is what he says he is. He's a real guy talking about real things that matter, and he talks about sports. He doesn't talk about politics and sports. He talks about sports. And if you're a sports fan, you need to follow this guy because he has a goal. He's trying to eliminate ESPN. More power to you, my brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, for those of you that are on audio with us, you're going to go out with a couple of commercials, and those of you that are here on YouTube with us, we'll see you guys next Sunday, Brushing Them Back with Colby White, live, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. We'll be this on me and Colby's local coaches and impact players for the baseball season that's upcoming. All right, guys, y'all have a good evening.